Alright, so we're going to do something similar to yesterday in that we're working on some AI stuff. But today's going to be slightly different because we're going to be using a butterfly. That being said, there isn't really an integrated solution, at least that I'm aware of, to deal with flying creatures in Unreal Engine. So we're going to have to do something kind of hacky to make it work. So let's make a new folder called Butterfly. And I'm going to put in these, rename this to Butterfly AI Controller. And change our blueprint here to say butterfly. Let's open that up. We of course need to first change this to being a butterfly. And I think I'm going to go with this particular texture for the butterfly. Let's get our animation blueprint. In here, inside of our capsule component, we're going to make this larger. As you can see, the animation isn't like the previous ones we had that were like, you know, the rabbit grooming itself or the rat looking around. It's a constant animation of the butterfly flying around. And we don't want to make a capsule component that's as large to contain that entire thing because it's a pretty long animation. But what we can do is make it still rather large. Let's make it 100 by 100. I'm also going to bump up the size of the butterfly just a little bit to 1.5 all the way around. And let's go to movement and do max acceleration to 50. We don't want it too much. Set the mass to 1. Floor angle, we can set it to 90 because it's flying. Max fly speed, set it to 100. Movement capabilities, can fly. And while this would be pretty much the end for another type of animal, I'm not quite happy with how that is. So let's go back in here. Let's make sure this is actually at a sufficient height. Location is 0, 0, and 0. Let's actually put this up to 50. So it's a little bit higher. I like that. And because this is a flying creature, if we were to make the capsule component the same size as the actual butterfly, well, I'll show you what would happen. So let's go to viewport. Here, it's a capsule component. Let's set this down to, let's just say 10 and 10. Compile and save that. Let's just put this thing in the world, put it right down here. Even though there's an offset, it's still going to have the same problem. Then we're going to, and you see, it's very low to the ground. Even if I was to take it and put it way up here, it's still going to start on the ground. Because we use the capsule component to actually figure out the height of things. Well, maybe that's not the best terminology, but we're using the capsule component to determine the size of the object on the nav mesh navigation volume. Speaking of which, I did not put a navigation volume down yet. That was just the animation running. We should put down a navigation volume. Put that down here. Put it out that way, put it out this way. Alright, so let's move it over a little bit. Something like that. That's pretty good. Now, let's go back to our butterfly blueprint. Let's set the capsule component back to being 100. And this will solve the problem of it, you know, being really close to the ground, but I'm still not exactly happy with how it works. So, if we play, you see it kind of stays at the same height until it hits something like these rocks. And then the capsule component, because it's 100, is going up on top of the rocks the same way as if a character was walking on them. Hence we have our flying butterfly kind of like that. So we're going to do something kind of hacky, but I feel like the issues that it might cause are worth it to have it be at different heights, simply because Otherwise, it just looks a little strange for it to be flying at the same height unless there's like a rock underneath of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the event graph. We're going to go to our move to random location. Don't know why this isn't plugged in. It should be. And I'm going to add an offset to the actual mesh component itself that is the butterfly. So we're going to do an add offset, add a local offset, and we're going to plug that in right after a success. And in order to get this value, we're going to do a get random float in range. And it doesn't need to be too much. We're just going to make this -50 and +50. We only need to plug this into the Z value. And then each time this runs, provided it succeeds, it'll change the height of our actor negative or positive 50 units in whatever direction. And if we want to actually see that in action, we can put a little print string in here. And let's append it. And we'll do added offset of, and then we can just put in here what our offset is. And then when we play, we should get a value every time we succeed. So let's go in here and plus play. All right. It's running. Let's wait for it to continue through on this first part. There we go. Added an offset of 30. It is a little jumpy, I admit. When it finishes, it kind of jumps to another height. Right there, happened again, an offset of 16. But I think that'll be okay. It's also got some issues going through trees and stuff, but it's a tiny detail. The fact that butterflies are in this at all is something that I think the player will appreciate, even though they aren't perfect. And with that being said, let's stick a bunch more of these in here. So we got one here. Let's take it close to the ground, like that. And we can just put a bunch of these in. Kind of just all over the place. Let's make sure we're still within the bounds. And these can pretty much be wherever we want. We won't have too many of them, I guess, but we can have a good number of them. It doesn't quite matter. Put one or two over here in the market area. That looks pretty good. Let's add one more over here. Alright, cool. Simulate that. Should have a bunch of butterflies flapping around. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Let's get rid of our print string, because we know what it's doing. And let's see how this looks in game. Alright, we got our rat over there off to the side just walking around. We got butterflies. It's pretty good. Got a butterfly there. One right there. There's another rat. Butterfly, two butterflies. Little tiny rat. Another butterfly. Yeah, this is coming to look together pretty nice. Add some life to the world, you know? I think that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching. Consider watching the other videos about how we got to where we are in this project in the playlist link below. Consider liking and subscribing, all that stuff. I'll see you tomorrow.